I've heard these anecdotes that involve some really big artists, and it's a very similar story over and over again, just with different people. And it's basically people backstage at big concerts are being told don't interact with another big name act, usually the headlining act, and it's road crew, it's other people working backstage, but it's also a lot of the time other big bands. And I'm wondering, because you hear the same story over and over again, and you think it's kind of weird. And a lot of the time they're told, don't make eye contact with this person. And you think, well, if someone is like a headlining act and they're going out on stage and they're commanding these big arenas, are they really that paranoid about people making eye contact with them backstage?
This guy comes over, part of Van Morrison's crew, and he says, you have to leave now. And I said, why? And he said, because Van Morrison is coming in. And I said, but I've got an access all areas pass. And he went, oh, well, you'll have to stand with your back against the wall of the tent when he comes in and don't look at him, which I did. But I think I did look at him as you would gaze at Medusa.
So we're sitting backstage, and at one point, a personal assistant or whatever comes, and says, Mick Jagger's going to walk through here in a couple minutes. He's going over to his private gym in his truck, and he's going to warm up before the show. When he walks through here, please don't make eye contact with him or talk to him or whatever. Just Mick is going to walk through here.
And I didn't know if it was just like, that classic DLR Van Halen beef you always heard about or whatever, but I was actually told by some people on that tour, they're like, if you ever see him backstage, like take your first immediate turn or turn around, like do not have an interaction with that guy. Like apparently the first month of the tour, he had like 12 people fired for anything. Like he didn't like the shirt you're wearing, you're fired. Like, I don't know if that's like actually literally true, but like that's what I was told by crew people out there.
Trent Reznor gave this interview once and he was talking about Prince. He says, I was in the studio and I heard Prince was coming in. There was a time when I thought he was awesome, but what an effing creep. The rules were you were never to say the word Prince. You had to write down that symbol. You were never to look at him or talk to him unless he approached you first. So this would have been when Prince was having that battle with Warner and he changed his name to Symbol or something like that because he didn't want the label to own him because they contractually owned the name. But it's the same story about just not having eye contact. And here's a tweet from Cheryl Henry, who was a dancer for Bob Dylan back in the 90s. And she says, Nadine, who was running things, had told us all before not to make eye contact with you. And then he actually replied on Twitter and he said, I saw your reply. I just wanted you to know I've never told anybody not to make eye contact with me. This is just ridiculous. And the next time you see me, please look straight into my eyes. So this Twitter exchange between Bob Dylan and Cheryl starts to explain, I think, these stories and why they're all so similar. So what I think is going on is a lot of the time, PR people that work for big stars, they don't want some scene happening with their client that's going to be in the news or some conflict or altercation that they need to deal with. So to make their own lives easier, they put out this statement to anyone in the vicinity that says, don't interact with my client and don't even look at him if you see him. And so then that's what goes out, and then it becomes a rumour, and everyone thinks that this big star is a bit of a diva, a bit of a a-hole, and that's what happens basically. Is it good for their reputation? Not really, I don't think. Does the big star even know about it? In a lot of the cases, probably not. So, that's what I think's going on. Anyway, let me know what you think in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe. My name's Mark. I'm in a band called Hot Work Permit. I'll link to our band YouTube in the description. See you next time.